Good evening and welcome to another amazing episode of Do Life. I'm Pastor Delon Fletcher, and alongside of me today, I have one of our cool members of our body here at Life International, the awesome, the world-renowned Samuel Asabor. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, Pastor Delon.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear that. Before we get going in today's dialogue, one thing that we want you to do is to definitely continue to like, share, and subscribe our content as you are receiving it. Make sure you hit that little bell gadget in the lower corner of your screen so that you can always get alerts anytime that we are going live or that we're sharing something that is tailor-made just for you. We want you to get our content because we got good stuff coming out here in this season, and we're just excited about what God's doing. And so having said that, I think it's time for us to get right into gear, if that's okay. You okay with that?
Yeah, I'm okay with that, man.
All right, so dig it. There are so many great things that are happening, Samuel, and one thing that we've gotten into starting on last week is we started to talk about building this church and some of many amazing experiences that members have had here in Life International, bringing us back 30 some odd years, right? You know, hearing from some of their first members, just hearing about the excitement that they encountered when they walked through the doors of Life International all the way in the early 90s, late 80s. We're not going to date nobody, but it was a good time in the Lord. And one of the things that really stuck out as we were really getting a good examination of the foundations of faith and the foundations of Life International was that of diversity. And when I come into Life International, I'm always enamored because I love culture. And I get really excited when I know that there are different folks from different backgrounds and different paths and trajectory of life that are all assembled into one space. And so today, I really want to hone in more on the diversity component because I think diversity is essential to Life International. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I definitely agree.
And when I look at that, I often think about the vision of Life International. So I want to read something. And the first thing I read, I want to know, how do you feel about it when it's in your hearing? Our vision is building a strong, multicultural, multiracial body of believers where the nations gather. When you hear that, what first sticks out to you?
Well, the word that first sticks out, well, the phrase that first sticks out to me is where the nations gather. I remember I've grown up in this church. A lot of people who've been here know me. They've known I've been here since I was basically born. This is the church
Were you born
in.
on the pews? Were you one of those?
So when it comes to the phrase where nations gather, it reminds me of many times when I was growing up, I would see all sorts of people from various walks of life, various backgrounds, just come into our church and fellowship. They would come to have fun, enjoy time with us. As a kid growing up, I remember seeing kids from from Ghana, kids from Nigeria, just coming into our church to spend time in children's church. We would talk, we would laugh. I remember seeing kids from South America. There's all sorts of people that would come. And when you say where the nations gather, that just reminds me of that, like all those moments, because it's very important to consider that when a place is considered a place where multiple people, where a multiple diverse set or group of people gather, you have to be able to see it, and you have to be able to experience it. And that's easier said than done, in my opinion.
Yeah, you're going somewhere, you're going there early, but I think we could do this. You're 100% right. It is easier said than done. And I think you and I both know, and I think we were even sharing, we live in a time and we live in a space where certain words are more or less, they're buzzwords. They're put out because they get attention. But when I think of diversity and creating that space where the nations gather, when God gave this vision to our visionary leader, King Adopte, I wonder how that actually truly unpacks, because it's not easy to always put people who are coming from a different background, a different perspective, different perspectives of worship, all in one place. But yet when they're in one place, there is this amazing common sense of unity. There is a sense of hope. There is a sense of what God can do and how we serve a God of the impossible. But we've been able to do that with folks who, in some aspects, have grown to look at the world differently based off of wherever they may have come from. And I think that is such, it's a blessing, because what I could see here is that we're not manufactured, but it has become an organic dwelling place for the nations to gather. And so in thinking about that, when we think of diversity, how then, as we look at the body of Christ at large, how do we avoid some of those pitfalls of not just becoming diverse in saying, but not in action? And I definitely want to hear it from you, because as a younger, you're the millennial generation, As a millennial, what are some of the things that you see that could impact the ability to have that diverse setting in the house of God?
So I'm going to be honest here. When I think of things that impact how diverse the church is or the house of God, it's a lot of times how people relate with each other. Conflicts can happen very easily between two groups of people. Everyone knows that. If you think about it, when you're younger in school, if you grew up, when you go to school, you would see all sorts of people. You would tend not to interact with people who you didn't understand, but you can't afford to do that if you're in a diverse setting, especially in a church which tries to foster people of all backgrounds. Mm-hmm. So you have to be able to see those people and then first of all come to them with empathy, awareness, and understanding. You don't necessarily need to agree with them on everything, but you have to keep it in your mind that your first goal is not to foster an argument with them. It's not to keep any enmity or anger with them. You have to be able to listen to them and understand where they're coming from, even if you don't agree with it.
That's true. And I think that's why God gives us, through his word, what we hear in Galatians 3:28, where the scripture just simply illustrates there is neither Jew nor Gentile, neither slave nor free, nor is there male or female, for you're all one in Christ Jesus. And I think what you were expressing really kind of anchors into the fact that once we have this acceptance of Christ in our life, there is no lesser version of believer in the body. And so when we have a diverse setting and you have folks who've received Christ all over the world, you have folks who've received it here, where you got it, it's not like it's a name brand thing, right? It's I'm not the Gucci version of salvation, and nobody is the lesser version of such. You know, when we have this acceptance of Christ, we've all become the same. But I think more often than less in society and in the world that we live in, it's been easy to judge people based off of either how they received, where they received them from. Let's just be honest. There are some folks, when you have conversations from a denominational perspective, who will say, well, that's not really the true way, and yada, yada, yada. Listen, if you came and you've accepted Christ to be yours, then you're family. That's just all there is to it. Yep. There is no demarcation. Well, I found him here and I found him there. We just want you to find him. And if you got him, then I think that means that we are all in this together. But sometimes we have a habit of creating those earthly identifiers on salvation, and that's a no-no. And so as you bring up that perspective of being able to understand, communication is pivotal. And one of the things that I really admire is the ability to be inclusive of all ethnicities, inclusive of all languages, inclusive of all expressions. And so when we think about that, how has the inclusivity benefited you and helped to shape your view as a young, budding, soon-to-be, whichever you pick, whether or not it's a physician or a research physician, whatever in your path, how has this perspective of inclusivity and diversity here at Life International influenced you for the world that you're getting ready to jump into?
Well, it made me realize a lot of times that being inclusive is not something that you can just sit down and do. You have to be active to be inclusive. You have to do your best to include someone and bring them towards you as a believer. You have to get on their level sometimes and be like, hey, do you want to be my friend? Do you want to talk? Do you want to go get food later? Do you want to, I heard that, I know in your culture you celebrate this holiday. Do you mind if I come and, hang out with you that day? Or you can show me around. Teach me how you celebrate this with your family. Simple things like that. It might put you out of your way a little bit, but it's a great way to show others that you really care about them, that you really care about what they think, where they come from, and how they are functioning in the body of Christ. Because a lot of times, I can say for a fact, I don't know a lot about people from, let's say, South America or from other parts of Africa. My family is from Nigeria, but I don't know a lot about people from other parts of Africa. I only know what I've heard. And as someone who was born here, in America, I can also say that I don't know a lot about people over in Wyoming or in Arkansas. I don't know everything about them. But so they might have a slightly different way they do something. They might have a slightly different way they cook chicken than I do. They might have a slightly different way they talk than I do. Because everyone knows, they like to say North Carolinians have southern accents and stuff. So you got to be very aware of it, but you also have to be very inclusive of it. You have to be it's fine if you talk that way. I enjoy how you talk, or I enjoy the way you come at things. People like to hear that you enjoy who they are. And a lot of times in places all over the world, people don't hear that. They're looked at like they're alien, like they're different, like they don't have any voice.
One thing I think I'm hearing you say, or at least a resounding tone, is that we as believers, we have to be intentional.
Yeah.
If there is no intention, if there is no direct purpose to engage, that is probably the easiest way to mute somebody who might be of a different background or have a different perspective. And so we have to go above and we have to go beyond. One of the things that I recall, which I really enjoyed, and I tell this story all the time, is when I first came down here, I was privileged to have one of the greatest hospitality greetings ever. And at that hospitality meal that was led by Dr. Steve and his wife, Shanti, it was amazing because it was the first time that I had Kool-Aid with diced fruits in it. It made me laugh, it made me giggle, but I told everybody around the world, no matter where I go, the greatest Kool-Aid that I ever had, it comes from Malaysian hands, right? But it was an homage just to the diversity of trying something that I've already known, different, with somebody else's cultural infusion added to it. And, while we're talking about a beverage, I think the greater message behind it is that we've always got to be willing to learn new things to help understand what shaped one's view, whether it is of God or how they serve God or how they worship God. Because we're here and we have the ability and the freedom to worship God within our native tongue. It's not uncommon to be in a service here and for somebody to pray in their native language, if it's Spanish or their native Ghanaian or Nigerian dialect, or if they're from Kenya or from Tanzania. It's not uncommon, just like it's not uncommon to hear somebody praising God in Portuguese or in Mandarin. And so I think we have to make sure that we stay in the position of being intentional so that when we are connecting with other folks, there is a reception of who they are. As much as we want to be received, we want those on the other end to have the option of feeling received.
Yeah. One thing I want to say is, since you were talking about all the different ways people speak and the languages, it reminds me of my own home situation. I cannot speak my parents' language. My parents' language is, they're from Benin, they're from Edo State. Whenever they speak, I understand what they say up to a certain degree, even though I can't speak their language. And I'm always just very I know when my mom's mad, I know when my dad's happy. Even if they speak really rough in their language, I can pretty much tell. And I can also tell if they're trying to tell me to go do something or if they want me. So, it reminds me of the fact that, everyone has, all over the world, there's different languages, there's different dialects, there's different ways of speaking. Even English has different ways of talking. That's linguistics. But you have, that's part of being diverse. You have to, sometimes, even if you don't understand what someone is saying, you can understand the intent behind it. And that's what really matters. You shouldn't be against people speaking in their language or speaking in their native tongue. And even if you don't understand it, I think that's one thing I love about our church. Our church, we sing songs in different languages. We always try to touch on different communities out there and sing their songs in ways they can understand. And I love that about our church. It's something awesome. And it's a way to show people that even if we don't understand, because I doubt everyone understands when we're speaking songs in Spanish or when we're speaking songs in a Ghanaian dialect. I doubt everyone understands those words. They probably don't know what they mean, but they understand the intent behind them, that they're made to worship God and Jesus Christ.
Absolutely. And I think one thing I just will piggyback on, I am not the best Spanish speaker. I understand it, but there's something that happens, I notice whether I'm here, whether or not I'm abroad, when the worship is going on in that language, there seems to be a greater intensity or a greater draw, I feel, at times. And I know that it has to be the same for other people in different languages. I think the most amazing thing is, as you were reflecting on the worship and the songs that are sung in different languages and dialects, I think it's exciting that we have people who don't represent the native language that are actually singing those songs in that dialect or in that native tongue. And I think that's an opportunity, right? Diversity is not just restricted to, I came here from this country and that country. No. The reception of it could be done for anybody. Regardless of where you're from, you could take that initiative to pick up, you could take that initiative to learn, and just to understand some of the different cultural beacons. And so one thing that I really feel is that we're at a season of really growing, and we're really at a season which to me is exciting because there is so much expansion that is on the horizon. And so when you think of growing and you think of the nations, how can we become more inclusive than where we may currently be? And the reason why I ask that is because while we're a diverse house, there is always more that we can do. We're all on a lifelong journey of learning, a lifelong journey of improvement. So what do you think is going to be required for us to further touch other folks that might be a little, well, I don't know if I can go there because I'm different, or when I praise God, I have a draw in my language or in my tongue? What do you think we can do to help remove some of that stigma so that we can get those folks in the house and into God's presence?
Well, the first thing I want to say is you got to understand that that's going to be something that you have to work a lot towards. You have to put a lot of effort into that, because when people from other places, other countries come over to us and they see us praising, it can be very easy to basically become introverted, to like go back into your corner because you're not used to the atmosphere in another place. And that can be a problem. But if we want to bring people to be like, to want to come up and show off who they are, to show where they come from, we have to be able to open up places where they can do so. And then not only that, we have to bring people who will be able to talk with them and relate with them. And what I mean by relate, by the way, is not just being like, oh, I experienced something similar. No, it's being able to just be there for them. And one thing like the churches can do to like show off these people's diversity is we could hold small events where people can come together and talk. A lot of times people just go to service on Sunday or maybe another day of the week, and then they all enjoy the sermon, learn. But then after the sermon's done, they go their separate ways. They say hello, they hug, but they don't go down and sit with them. It's like a father. Let me give you a small analogy. Look, a father and a son are talking. If the father never goes and does things with the son, he never takes the son out to let's say baseball games. He never watches him do well in school. He never teaches him. He never reprimands him when he does wrong. Then what is he doing as a father? He's not really being a father for that person. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because if you think about it, if a church doesn't set events or set times where people can talk and really fellowship with one another, even if it's just oh, let's all go out and eat together. We can all go to let's say a Caribbean place down by the block. Let's go eat. And then you can bring the people from the Caribbean and be like, you guys recommend us food. We'll let you pick what food we eat. Yeah.
I like that.
That could be that's something very simple. And it can be a way to show that you care about their culture and you want to learn more about it. Because the worst thing a person can do is refuse to learn. And a lot of times, us as people, I do it, I'm pretty sure everyone does it. We have times where we don't even realize we were refusing to learn.
And so what I'm also hearing you say, you came back to it again. You came back to being intentional, but more importantly, I think what I heard you say was, don't put yourself in the position where you can build a silo around yourself. What I really liked about your idea about going to a different restaurant and perhaps letting the people who might be native to that culture do the ordering for the other folks is it gives them an opportunity to not show their leadership, but essentially, when you're dealing with food, you're having to trust other people's opinion, other people's recommendation. And so I like that concept and I like that idea a lot. And I think that that's something that we really need to do together.
That's the main thing. It has to be together.
Yeah, because I think of and I won't go into my food experiences, y'all, but I think about when I first had chin chin. It was with your family, and I was like, oh, this is tasty. And next thing you know, I think your mom gave me like 2 big 5-pound bags full of it. And I
Yeah.
had
If you tell my
for
mom you love it,
months.
she's gonna make it for you. She's a great person. She's always the type of person who will, if you say you need something, even if she has to go out of, like, even if she has to spend an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours making it, she'll make it for you
I
and bring it
know.
over to you.
I know.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that. But again, that was also,
Yeah.
when I go back to the years ago, it was me now understanding and learning more about Nigerian culture. And, you know, I could say that I've been privileged to experience so many cultures here without getting my passport stamped, because everything is here and everything is in the house. And so before I let you go, just thinking about your generation in particular, because again, we're focusing on building this church. And when I think about that, there is a huge emphasis on the millennial and the zennial and whatever other generational names there are that are after mine that are really coming up. And so when you think about, you know, the rise per se of things such as social media and just technology, what are some of the ways that we as a body of faith can ensure, because our message is going out to the world, but it may not be centric to every continent or every soil that's receiving it. What are some ways that you think that we could leverage to improve that so that we could keep that visibility to where it needs to be?
So we've talked about how basically the older generation can show their diversity, how people can talk about where they come from, but a lot of times the younger generation, they also have their own stories. They have things they use like TikTok and stuff. They can, if they really want to, they can show on those social media platforms through the church. They can be like, oh, at our church we did a whole like dance that was from so and so culture. At our church we had a party with the children where we all went out to a, like, I'm just going to use another food place, like a Norwegian place or a Hispanic place or Chinese, Japanese, anywhere. Like, these children are able to do are able to show off our church in many more ways than we expect.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of that, but I think it is up to us to make sure that we continue to put our best foot and our best hand and everything that we've got forward so that we can continue to build the kingdom that God has assigned for us. I'm grateful for the vision that was inspired and presented to His Majesty, and I'm grateful for their continued execution of that vision. Diversity has made me a better person. It's allowed me to connect more with people from different backgrounds and different lifestyles. And so as we think about that, and even as we prepare to close on today, I just want to really be mindful. All it takes is just being intentional when we connect. But it is through that intentionality that we're able to forge new relationships, that we're able to learn more about our brothers and sisters in the faith, and ultimately that we're able to support each other as family, because that's what we are and that's who we are here at Life International. And so as you prepare today, we want to know and just be mindful that there are many ways that you can give, and you can go to that kingdom commitment that you have in your heart. You could simply text 84321 from your mobile device, or you're more than capable of going to our website to visit www.lifeinternational.us/give. We appreciate the faithfulness, we appreciate the steadfastness, and all of the tenacity that has come forth in giving from our online members and our online families. We are looking forward to connecting as we continue to build this house, but most importantly, as we continue to do life together. Look forward to connecting with you soon.
Hey Life International family, thanks for watching another Do Life session powered by King Adante. We hope that you were blessed by today's discussion and have learned some key principles that you can apply to your everyday life. Join us next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our next Do Life session. You can join us by visiting our YouTube channel, We're Life International RTP, and if you haven't done so, make sure you subscribe and turn on your post notifications so you don't miss a session. If you're in the Research Triangle Park or the surrounding area, we would love for you to join us on Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for our worship service. We're located at 5310 South Austin Avenue, Durham, North Carolina, 27713. If you're not able to join us in person, don't worry. You can join us via live stream by visiting lifeinternational.us/DOLifeTV. If you were blessed by today's message, we encourage you to give. Your giving is how we can continue to bring you messages like this on a weekly basis. You can give via text using your mobile device by texting your donation amount to 84321. You can also give online by visiting us at lifeinternational.us/give. Or you can give by scanning the QR code with your mobile device's camera. Thank you for supporting our ministry through giving. We look forward to doing life with you. Have a blessed week. We'll see you next time. Bye.